Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul.
And Paul, we've got two Supermen. Well, we don't really. We've got James Gunn's Superman. Well, the two of us are Supermen. But we've got James Gunn's Superman and the shadow or ghost of the Snyder DCEU Superman. And I'm surprised that there's still so many rumblings happening.
Yeah, like it's an interesting one. So what we're going to be talking today is essentially about Zack Snyder's Superman and James Gunn's Superman, and of course, by talking about them, we'll have to talk about the wider universes in which they inhabited. So, and there seems to be a lot more rumblings going on recently. Obviously, with the release of Superman, James Gunn's Superman, the first in the DCU new universe, the reboot, and also now the announcement of as of recording the announcement of essentially the Superman Saga, which is to show that there will be more movies specifically with the James Gunn Superman kind of thing. So I think that's reignited the Zack Snyder's fans campaign of bringing back the Snyderverse
Yeah.
kind of thing. And also, I will say, social media has not helped in this kind of like clickbaity, uh, like emo, especially like on certain platforms where it's like choose an emo to represent with either, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we should print t-shirts that just stops at the word helps. So social media hasn't helped, dot, dot, dot.
Yeah,
Because it never seems to.
very true. So yeah, the popularity since the release of the James Gunn Superman, there's been a popular kind of like upturn in the joy that this I would say hopeful, more kind of hopeful Superman has gotten compared to the more realistic in our world Zack Snyder Superman. So this is kind of where the comparison has started, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, we have two different, very decision making or character decisions. One's to bring us into the world of Superman of Supermans, and then the other one was to bring Superman into our world.
Yeah, and honestly, Paul, like DCEU, represented by Man of Steel and Zack Snyder here, and DCU, which is, now technically, I think Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Season 2, and Superman, really, because it's just Superman. That's James Gunn. Um, those two things, when people refer to the Snyderverse, it's a bit darker. That's commonly the way people put it, and people have been saying this is lighter. So if you think of it as dark versus light, that doesn't really tell you anything about the storytelling itself, because dark and light it's very, very abstract. For my money, and we've talked about this before, the toxic fandom that can happen. I think there's an element of negativity that some of the hardcore Snyder people have brought, and we can't ignore that. But I think for the sake of this conversation, let's just maybe put it on a shelf, because we could end up talking about it nonstop. That there's some hardcore crazy folk out there. When
Yeah.
you take, the normal run of the mill people who are into this, and even just normies who aren't like us and aren't into all of this, but just the likes of us. For me, DCEU is a different conversation than Man of Steel, because I happen
Hmm.
to really like Ben Affleck, Batman. I liked a lot of things. I thought the first Aquaman showed promise. I thought the second Aquaman showed us that it was all a big mistake. And Wonder Woman was great until Wonder Woman Part 2 wasn't great. So, like, fingers crossed James Gunn does not have the same sort of sequelitis that the DCEU had.
Yeah.
But Snyder's, you're the Superman fan of the two of us. Snyder and Cavill's Superman being grittier, realer, darker. I didn't think that was a bad thing at the time. I just thought it was the thing. And now with Corenswet and Gunn, I still just think of it as the thing. I don't actually compare them as much as everybody else. Do you? Like, is it something that when you see these arguments, you start, picking a side or having a feeling? Because I see these things very dispassionately, and people going at each other, and I'm like, we have both. Can we enjoy both slightly differently?
So yeah. So I guess I enjoy both of them for different reasons.
Mm.
Which goes and yeah, I'm allowed to have my cake and eat it, I guess, in a
Yeah.
kind of sense, kind of thing. But I will say that Superman represents something different, which goes than what I would say that Zack Snyder portrayed. Um, Superman has always been the Boy Scout. He's always been the too good to be real character kind of thing. Ignoring his powers, his personality, the way that he was grown up, the way he was brought up, seemed like he should be saving as many people as he possibly can. Which is even going out of his way. He's overly nice. He is essentially the DCU's or DC's version of Captain America. That's one of the biggest things.
I hear you.
And where here Henry Cavill's Superman was a little bit more realistic, a little bit more kind of in the real world.
He was a neck snapping badass at one point, Paul.
Yes, which is the problem is that like that realism kind of go against some of the kind of characteristics of what Superman kind of
traditionally was, let's say.
Yes,
and that's the thing. I want that word traditional to be used, or the mainstream telling, or the central version of, because I'm all for it, and I'm just saving us from people going, hey, you're the ones always banging on going, it was great, they took that character and did what they wanted for it, they used their vision. I still fully believe in that. And I think that's maybe where my biggest get out of jail for the Superman Man of Steel stuff, because remember, I was not a big Man of Steel fan. I'm not even as big of a Cavill Superman fan as you were. So like the new Superman worked for me on a lot of levels, the same way it worked for you, but then even, slightly differently. I can get to enjoy both, but their significance to the DCEU and DCU is stratospherically different for me.
Yeah.
It's when you compare the Supermans, I go, why compare them? It's definitely two different visions. I definitely think the Corenswet Gunn one is much more kind of in line with traditional Superman, and I enjoy that very much. But what it means for what Gunn's going to be doing with the DCU, I'm very excited about compared to how things went with the DCEU.
Yes, yeah, that's a good, like, it's a good starting point because James Gunn has said that there doesn't seem to be hope in a lot of movies these days. There doesn't seem to be a lot of light. Seth MacFarlane has also echoed that feeling as well, where we don't have the positivity and stuff like that. It definitely feels like the opening salvo of the DCU was to bring hope and bring more lightness into the movie, into Hollywood, kind of thing. And I do think that it sets a good tone. The good thing about James Gunn's DCU is that though there is already tonal shifts between characters, we have Peacemaker to show that there is a grittier version of this world. It's not just all hope and thing. Guy Gardner is also a character in which that shows it as well. But Superman is kind of like the exception to the rule kind of thing. Whereas to me, the DCU, starting with Henry Cavill's kind of darker, more realistic Superman, and then going into characters like Batman and stuff like that were very much in line more with the vibe of the Superman kind of setting. It definitely feels like, okay, we're just setting a kind of level of which everything is set at, and we're not going any further. We'll either go darker or we'll stay at that line. That's the kind of thing that it felt like Zack Snyder was doing, which is no problem. Yeah. I do think that also there was a mandate to rush the production to a certain place, whereas I think James Gunn is able to set his mandate a little bit further afield, which is also a very important decision.
The elephant in the room, Paul, is Marvel. We talk about DCEU and DCU. Everybody should set their clock back and remember what it was like when Snyder released Man of Steel. Marvel could do no wrong. They were essentially printing money and creating an entire new, not just genre, an entire new movie culture. It was incredible, but it did mean that give us our Superman, give us our Batman, give us our Wonder Woman, give us our Avengers. Oh wait, they're not a DC property. What's our Avengers? Justice League. So not only did it go from solo film to no Batman film, but like a Batman versus Superman, it went from single to double to group. That was a lot of pressure. Very, very quickly. And we talked at the time about how that could have been a huge mistake. Gunn, different scenario. He's in charge, but he's also already jumped that shark by going, hey, my first movie is an ensemble movie anyway. with Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, etc., etc. So has he fireproofed himself, Paul? Do you think? Is that just like wicked genius?
So I think with James Gunn's Superman introducing other characters is he understands that the Boy Scout is kind of difficult to consistently have on screen and not
Yeah,
have different viewpoints on each Guy Gardner versus him is or like in a conversation with Superman is a very interesting concept because Guy Gardner's a lunatic and Superman is a nice Boy Scout. So like you're already having characters to play off of and they are superheroes themselves, which means that there's a certain element of respect and kind
yeah,
of understanding between the two characters, other than Superman talking like Henry Cavill's Superman talking to this Lois Lane and trying to learn
yeah,
his origins, kind of thing. So I do think that James Gunn has helped himself by also creating a Superman movie with elements of people around it and other like but able to do origin stories a little bit more.
yeah. And Paul, I know we're going to switch gears in probably less than a minute, but I just want to slide in that I think James Gunn has a problem that Snyder didn't have, and that is actually that the Batman, the Pattinson Vaughn Batman exists, and that's an issue. That's an issue because there's going to be a Batman too, um, and it's not going to necessarily be a DCU Batman that will exist in the same world as the Superman that we have. We're going to have a second Superman. Now I know we both said it was great when the Joker happened. Why don't they go off and do these separate stories? But a separate story is not the same as a separate universe within a universe.
My thing with the Batman 2, the Patterson and the Matt what kind of one. I think DC has always had that element to it. Not even just with the Joker and stuff like that. I think with their stronger animated content that's out there, and I understand that not every audience would watch it. I do
Yeah.
think that because they've already had media out there, I don't think this is too much of an issue, and I do think it's important to close off. Let that Batman, the Rob Patterson Batman, have a little bit of a closure. They've promised so much; it's very
Hmm.
popular kind of thing, and I don't see an issue, especially we're now in the age of Marvel's multiverse, and DCU. The DCU can also have a multiverse, which is no problem. Even if they don't ever meet, kind of thing. I don't see this as an issue. I
Hmm.
do the only kind of element to that, the only asterisk to it is that um like James Gunn's Superman automatically being compared to Zack Snyder's Henry Cavill Superman. Um, the difference is that I don't think James Gunn's Batman is going to be immediately compared to the Ben Affleck Batman. I think it's going to be
The
automatically
Pattinson.
compared to the Pattinson one. But
Mm.
as long as there's enough of a tonal shift, I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue. They do need to make it very clear
Yeah.
that this Batman is in the DCU. This Batman is the standalone, kind of thing.
I'm pulling
Um,
my juicy face for a reason, Paul, because, dear viewers, you're in for a treat. Is one of those few times where me and Paul actually fully disagree because I'm about to go, Paul, I think it will be a big issue, and here's why. Here's
okay.
my thinking on this. I think you've made a lot of great points, but there's one inescapable thing. And when I say this, I mean for normal cinema going folk.
Okay.
It's taken too long to get Batman Part 2. And I mean the Pattinson, the Vaughn, the
Yeah,
Batman.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Penguin has been very popular also as a TV series. When you're starting the DCU, it's the U part, it's the universe thing. For there
Yeah.
now to be, and you mentioned quite rightly, Marvel did it all. It really hurt Marvel in the end. And the only time that DC came near it was with, the Flash. They went multiversal, tried to, show like it has not worked well for the people who've done it so far. But my biggest issue here is timeline. You are not going to have your next Batman soon enough that it's going to give Gunn and the DCU long enough to then wait and have their Batman. That is their biggest challenge. because the one thing I do not think that they should or could or really can legitimately do, even if they're very different tonally, is
Yeah.
have people ask, but which Batman is this? Is he not in this one? And they're like, but I thought Robert Pattinson was Batman. Oh no, it's a different guy when you watch Superman movies. Because now you're in a Superman saga. Keep Batman out of it, James. That would be my suggestion. Until Batman Pattinson version, the Pattinson Bat has to come and go. And it deserves its like, I agree with everything you said, but
Mhm.
they need as much room between them as is humanly possible.
Yeah. Like
Because
I
it's so easy for the general public to be like, I don't like yous confusing me right now. Me and you were not going to be confused, but we weren't confused by anything in, Multiverse of Madness. We weren't confused by any of these things because fans aren't. But you need a lot of people to make big money now. A lot
like
of money needs to be made to keep James Gunn in the seat he's in too.
I think I don't I like I agree that they're going to have to make it very clear. And I do think that the Rob Patterson one is set for 2027.
Mm.
And it has no. The good thing is that it has no plans to bring in any other DC characters outside of the rogue gallery of Batman, which is good already, kind of thing. But I think James Gunn's Batman Brave and the Bold is going to be planned for 2028. So it's going to be a year between the two.
A year.
Um, yeah, which I do think in today's audiences is actually like quite a lot of time.
Oh, I don't
Um,
know. I don't like. I hope you're right, and I see where you're thinking, but I think you're using that thing that worries me. You're using hope. This new Superman has brought you too much. Brought you too much hope, Paul. You're becoming too hopeful that things will go well. I'm still working on the lack of hope, and that is,
oh,
if there's a year between Batman, how like look at the state of finances when it comes to even successful comic book properties, even Superman. Like we're not in the make the billion easy days anymore at all.
mhm.
And James Gunn, has not dropped the ball so far, but it's not as though he's made himself untouchable. Like Superman didn't turn, you know, Deadpool money. It hasn't gone Endgame money. So he's not like, hey, you got four more movies before anybody starts hassling you. Because he is still in a vulnerable position until he's shown that he's going to make bank repeatedly and enough bank. You introduce Batman and it doesn't go well for whatever reason, but one of those reasons being there's still a shadow hanging from the Pattinson Batman. Like, I think if you'd said 2 years, and honestly, I think it won't even be a full 12 months because 2027 seems optimistic because Matthew Vaughn
Yeah,
hadn't even turned in a script, allegedly like a month and a half ago. Either everything slides out and it'll all be fine, but if they do happen as close as they look like they're going to happen, yeah,
no,
yeah.
I get you. I do think that they'll slide out. But on the counter argument about the fact that like yeah, James Gunn is in a vulnerable spot because Superman wasn't it was a success, but it
It was
wasn't as
great. It
successful
was,
to create a money wall between him and the
mm,
money people. I don't think Batman is the kind of keystone touch there. I think the next few movies, which are really meant to kind of solidify the difference between DC and Marvel. Not only to solidify away from the Zack Snyder verse, I think the next few movies that he's bringing out are specifically to just be like, these are a whole bunch of new characters.
mm.
They're not, we're not Marvel. These are characters that you don't really know. We're going to introduce them in these things. I think they're going to be the keystone of kind of either protecting them or not. But so I don't think Batman's going to be the linchpin and stuff like that.
I just think it's the bullet that could kill him though, because Batman is their premier property when it comes to historical money making. It just
Oh,
is. That's like it's
I,
dwarfs anything else they have by a factor of three. Um,
I
and
would I agree that it's their premium kind of like superhero kind of thing. Like, but I would say that if there is if there's any point in which to pull the plug, it's going to be before Batman. Because like if he brings out
I see
another
what you mean. Yeah.
if he brings out another like because the Lantern movie is going to come out before that. There's a couple of other movies that are going to come out before that, which like if they don't do if he can't go, I can build a world that doesn't involve like I can build a
Good
universe
point.
on the back of other characters. Then like they're gonna pull the plug way before the Batman film gets released, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's my thing is he needs to show the fact that the audience have an appetite for out of the box characters that are not really that as known compared to like Batman and Superman and Aquaman and Wonder Woman and so
So,
Aquaman
like,
and
this is a
Wonder
very
Woman.
good point. So, to kind of move us back to the central conceit of this whole thing is because it's now Superman Saga. That's we
Mhm.
know that, and we know that there's Supergirl coming. We've had what everybody's referring to crypto as. We've had Superdog. There's a lot of super in our future. Is that really what should be compared to Snyder more than should it be if James Gunn can do Super Saga versus what Snyder tried to do by starting with Superman and then like you put it quite well earlier on, the themes of the other movies were dark and Superman, he fit into them because he was already gritty at that point. Is that really what you think people will have to end up comparing to get a real if they must compare these things? Do you think it's going to be Saga versus DCEU rather than DCU versus DCEU?
No, I think the next movie is going to completely split the path. I
Interesting.
don't I think when the next movie comes out, depending on how well it does, not even depending on how well it does, just the vibe that it has, I think that's automatically going to remove it from the from being able to be compared to the DCEU. Because the fact is, you're already introducing a roster of characters that weren't in the DCEU. So you're kind of breaking away from it a little bit more and stuff. The vibe is also going to be like fully different. The fact that they're going to take their time with some of the characters' introductions and stuff, whereas Zach was probably rushed to the end goal. I do think that certain characters will automatically be compared to their DCEU counterparts. So like when they do introduce a Wonder Woman, it's going to be
For sure.
compared and stuff like that. But I think the next movie is going to break it away from being able to be compared to the DCEU and DCU quite easily.
Mm.
I think people will have to bend over backwards to be just like, one is better than the other. It's going to be like, so far different to the two that
Yeah.
Zack Snyder fans are going to be allowed to, without any other fans going, well, you were so hardcore,
Yeah.
will be allowed to like both and still protect, the other one.
But
So
between us though, some of the kind of the breakdown in communication for us is that I'm agreeing with you like 90% of the time, and some of the time it doesn't sound like I am because without me qualifying it by saying, you know what 500 million is? It's not 600 million. And it's one of those things where even the idea that do I think Jason Momoa will be great for Lobo? Yeah. Do I think that James Gunn has got a great future with the lanterns? Yeah. I just think you can do things that will get you almost all of the way there, and you only have to alienate a small enough part of the casual moviegoers in the modern climate to not hit your depth. You've drilled the asteroid, but you didn't get all the way down. So the nuke did blow it up, but unfortunately, Earth still got destroyed. And in this case, I think let's say it's 12 months between Batman, and let's say there is kind of hang on, and I don't mean for most people, I mean for just enough to be like, sure, see, Aquaman's in it now, playing somebody else. Once you hear that sentence from a few people, you'll know you're in trouble. I'm hoping that sentence doesn't get uttered by anybody.
yeah,
But you kind of see where I'm saying here. I'm with you. You're probably right that his next movie is probably going to be the bellwether to say what's how much grace they'll give him. But I just think there's so many dangers. Everybody said Zack Snyder had the hardest run. He was rushed to do the Justice League, etc., etc. No, I actually think Zack Snyder had a challenge for sure. I think James Gunn has the challenge.
I do agree there. I think that James Gunn has the harder difficulty because he has what is being seen by some, and I don't mean the fan base, as a failed universe
Yeah,
because of the money that it didn't make and the the reviews of the movies and stuff like that. So I do think that he has a bit of a shackle to him as he moves forward. I think that the next movie, hopefully, or the next few movies may break that chain and kind of go,
hope
okay,
so.
well, this is a brand new kind of thing. Um, like my only counterpoints to kind of like the money side of things is as long as it does better money overall than the DCEU did,
Mm.
I think the money people are going to be particularly happy because like the only profitable probably ones that were actually like if because Wonder Woman 2 did not do well.
No, but
The other Aquamans didn't do well.
the first Aquaman did $1 billion, mate. Like that's the scary
Yes.
thing when you look back. The early days of the DCEU was at the time when like farts on screen were making money, so everything was getting a 20% bump, which is really unfortunate for James Gunn because I hope that he's not measured financially against the DCU. I hope they keep measuring it against Marvel because I think
Well, I
that's
see.
much fairer, kind of post 2019.
I I would say that Marvel would be a worse place. Like I know that recently Marvel's kind of like ventures into like haven't been great, but like I think the problem originally with the DCU was that it was compared to the Marvel like
Yeah,
making money. So I think being compared to kind of a longer stretch. Also, we will have to adjust because, as we all know, movies aren't making as much as they
no,
were.
yeah.
So I do think there's an adjustments there, kind of thing.
God, I hope so.
Um, so like, yeah, I do think that he's going to be for the money side. I think he's going to be compared on a slightly or easier scale than probably Zack Snyder is. I do think from a review and from a content kind of thing, I do think he's shackled with the old DCEU
Agreed,
kind of
agreed.
elements to it there. Um, so yeah, I do, but the I do think that the money side is just going to be that he's going to if he can stretch it out because like what the um Superman what did like what 600 million or something like that.
I haven't checked the final
Um,
numbers, but yeah, it's in or around that.
yeah, which is it's a decent kind of which is starting point
Mm.
from what was seen as a like a difficult a difficult restart kind of thing. So like as long as he keeps those kind of numbers and the profitability up,
Yeah,
um,
keep the budgets under control.
yeah, because the I also think that he's decided to also because it was Superman the James Gunn Superman's audience is also a wider net. Um, like I would have difficulty showing, and I don't have kids. I would have a difficulty showing the DCEU to like young children.
Yeah, I guess I know what you're saying.
Whereas Superman, this Superman, I could definitely show younger kids and stuff like that. So the net might be a little bit wider for the
Mm.
audience than things. And as much as we want to say that the Snyderverse, the Snyder fans will boycott this, they won't. As much as we think that they'll
Yeah,
get angry at the DCU, as much as they say online they won't. They may not go at the box office, but they will be a number in that. But like in that
there might
in
be a number
the
in piracy.
you
There'll be
know
a percentage of them, but yeah, I don't think you're right. For all the talk, the percentage of talk will not turn into the percentage of money lost when it comes to the boycotting Snyder fans. I get that. I absolutely agree with you there.
yeah. So
Um,
like
mm.
because I think I said at one point that I was going to finish not watch any more Marvel films, but look at me, I'm already still watching Marvel films, kind of
What
thing.
would have
Like
made you say that? I don't even remember what.
I don't know. It's probably Ant Man's like
Oh, Quantum
what was I gonna
Mania.
say Quantum Mania
Yeah,
or something like that.
that
And
made
I'm
us all
sure
take
I'm
two
sure
Tylenol and a rest anyway. So yeah,
yeah, and I'm sure that Wonder Woman part like Wonder Woman what was it, 19
'84. Yeah, that
yeah,
was
like
a sad moment. But that was that was also in
kind
the
of
middle
thing.
of the darkest timeline too. So ugh.
Yes. So like so overall I think that the next kind of couple movies are going to really kind of diverge the paths of the DCU and the DCEU. I don't think, but from kind of comparisons and stuff like that, I do think that James Gunn did a good thing. I think he did move as
Yeah.
far away from the DCU as he could. I don't see why people are so militaristic about the Snyder stuff, except for the closure part.
Yeah, and
That's the only part.
can we end on that as our kind of, because there's something, Paul, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with this. It would be lovely if this was the end of the kind of needless comparison, but unfortunately, because remember, like it's called, Snyder this and Snyder that, but Snyder didn't do Wonder Woman. Snyder only did a couple of movies in the DCEU. James Gunn's going to have his hands all over the DCU, as far as we know, assuming things go to plan.
Mm-hmm.
It would be lovely to stop comparing them very soon. Like, very, very soon.
Yeah.
Big problem with that. The minute he said we're doing the Superman Saga, what was the one thing that Zack Snyder had his hands on? It was literally Superman in the DC EU. I wish this would go away, and this should now go away, and it should be the last time we ever have to really talk about it. But Paul, as long as there's a symbol on a chest, I was going to say an S on a chest just to wind people up, but as long as there's capes, I think some people will just not let it go because they enjoy having something to be mad about. I just think those people will become less and less relevant because Supergirl is going to bring out a whole other bunch of creepy weirdos on the internet who are going to be upset that there's a woman on screen, or that she can lift things that maybe they couldn't lift. I don't know what the hell's wrong with people.
Yeah. There's plenty of other stuff that's going to be complained about. That's just going to be background noise, essentially, because it's just going to be unrealistic. Which we already had with Superman, with James Gunn's Superman as well.
Super woke. Yeah, I remember all that. Good Lord, people. Link to our video. So, Paul, if it was me and you measuring it all, I would give my original answer of I like that they both exist, and I'm very happy with where James Gunn's gone. I think great start. We talked about it beforehand. Impossible task. You landed the plane on the deck of the ship. I don't care how many wings or wheels it has. That's all fluff. The pilot got out alive. Some people can say it was a perfect landing. Some people can say he crash landed it. I'm going to say it's on the ground and nobody died, which was against all odds before it started for me. So good job, James Gunn. Also, good job, Zack Snyder. Not everything he did was for me. It's different, people. It's different. All right? We don't need to compare Pepsi and Coke all the friggin' time.
I agree. Both people, James Gunn and Zack Snyder's, both had their challenges, kind of thing with both being different. But let me pass on the question to you guys. What do you think of the Snyderverse, the DCEU and the DCU comparison kind of thing going on? Are you looking? Did you want the closure of tying off the Zack Snyderverse, or do you enjoy the new kind of where the new direction for the DCU is going? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, if there's anything that we talked about that you also want to comment about, get down there. We read it as much as we can. And like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.
And with that said, beautifully said, I'll just say that I've been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we have been Here's Out. And we'll see you next time. Up, and away. Bye.